MRV Reporting Guide. In accordance with EU regulations on the monitoring, reporting and verification of CO2 emissions from maritime transport ship operators are legally required to periodically submit verified EU MRV reports. The data reported under the EU MRV framework is the main basis for calculating vessels' verified CO2 emissions and EU ETS. The accuracy of this data directly affects operational costs and commercial settlements between shipowners and charters. Reporting discrepancies may lead to contractual disputes or, in serious cases, emission allowance non-compliance penalties. To standardize reporting and reduce data error risks, our company has prepared this training manual using Class and CUM-RV monitoring template as a reference for data entry demos and operational guidance. Each vessel has its own form. Company downloaded the original form from Classic website and send it to the ship. The original file is a zip compressed file. It contains the ship's basic information. After receiving the file, please save it to the desktop or specified folder. Unzip the compressed file to your local drive. Inside is a folder named bin and an Excel file with the same name as the zip file. Do not move any files in the compressed package, and do not modify any names of the compressed file. Open the Excel file to fill in the relevant data. As filling in the MRV form, deck and engine need to jointly collect port information. Comnea's developed FR24 form. The data on the form can be directly used to fill in the MRV monitoring form. The form is divided into Form A and Form B. Form A is applicable to the part of voyage from one port to another without anchoring. Form B is applicable to the part of voyage from one port to awaiting anchorage of next port, and then shifts from the anchorage to a berth, which is relatively complicated. We suggest second officer filling in the navigation data, and the chief engineer fills in the fuel-related information. Both parties use the same form to communicate in time, to avoid errors in arrival and departure times, leading to data entry errors. Let's take a complete voyage with actual data as an example to help the crew understand and fill out the monitoring form. Meanwhile, we will also explain the data that is prone to errors. Our example voyage, the vessel unloads cargo in Safi, Morocco, then starts a new voyage to load 65,000 tons of bauxite in Camsor, Guinea. It then proceeds to Las Palmas, Spain, for anchorage bunkering, and finally heads to San Ciprian, Spain, first anchoring to wait for a berth. Then the ship berths for unloading, and finally, a small amount of MGO was added. We can divide the entire voyage into 3 sections, 1A, 1B, and 1C. The ship departs from Safi and directly calls at Camsor for loading. Bunker at Las Palmas anchorage. These 2 segments are applicable to Form A, since the vessel departs from Las Palmas to Spain for discharge. It first dropped anchor at San Ciprian and then shifted to the berth. Therefore, Form B applies to the 1C voyage. First, Voyage 1A from Safi to Camsor. Part 1 contains departure information, which is the UTC time when the ship departed from Safi. When filling out the Excel sheet, please strictly maintain the original time format. Excel has embedded formulas. Subsequent data will be automatically calculated based on this. Any change to the format will cause the formulas to fail. Then fill in the latitude and longitude of Safi, port name, and port code. Click the drop-down menu here. There are 3 options. If the port is in the European Union, select EU for EU ports and UK for UK ports. If the current port does not fall into either of these 2 scopes, like Safi, select the blank option. Select whether the ship has cargo operations at the port. Safi is the discharge port of last voyage. Select Y here. If there is no cargo operation, select N. Then fill in the ROB at departure. Please take note that departure time is last line let go from Safi. Part 2. Information at sea. From 2.2, 12 to point 1, 4, fill in the fuel consumption of main engine, auxiliary engine, boilers, and other equipment. Here the fuel consumption includes HFO, LSFO, and MGO, and all fuels currently used on board. Other emission sources include the fuel consumption of incinerators and other equipment. At present, we can temporarily ignore it. 2. Point to distance traveled. Fill in the total sailing distance from Safi berth to Kamsar berth. 2.3 arrival date and time. Fill in the UTC time when the vessel first lands on shore at the Kamsar berth. Please do not change the time format here. It will be automatically calculated time at sea. You can use this to verify against the manually calculated values. 2.5 cargo carried from last port. Safi was the discharge port of the previous voyage, and the vessel arrived at Safi in ballast, so we fill in 0. Part 3. Fill in Safi port stay information. 3.1 Fill in the date and UTC time of first line on shore at Kamsar, which is the same as the time filled into point 3. If you fill in the electronic form, you don't need to fill it manually. In 3. Point to fill in the date and UTC time of last line let go from Kamsar. Next, fill in Kamsar's latitude and longitude, port name, and code. Kamsar is a port of West African country. Select blank items from the drop-down menu. At 3.6, fill in the ROB at first line onshore in Kamsar. The Excel has automatic calculation formulas you can use to check with the ROB recorded in the logbook. At 3.7, fill in the fuel consumption of main engine, auxiliary engine, and boiler. 3.8 Fill in the bunker information at the arrival port. The vessel did not conduct any bunkering operations at Kamsar, so left this field blank. 3.9 Based on the above data, the Excel will automatically calculate ROB when departure from Kamsar. This data should be the same with the ship's departure report and logbook. If there is a discrepancy, minor adjustments to the consumption volume are required. Following by Voyage 1B, sailing from loading port to bunker port. Similar to the previous voyage segment, there is no in-port shifting. And Forma should also be used for filling. The requirements are basically the same as the previous one. The biggest difference is the arrival time and departure time. Arrival time refers to the time when the vessel drops anchor at the Las Palmas anchorage for bunkering. Departure time refers to the time when the vessel anchor weighs from the Las Palmas anchorage. In addition, Las Palmas is a Spanish port. You should select the port of EU. Everyone should pay special attention to Voyage 1C. Let's review 1C again. Vessel departs from Las Palmas to discharge port, drops anchor first, then shifts to berth to unload cargo. Cases with such berth shifting use Form B. And a reminder, this is also the part where crew members most often make mistakes when filling out forms. Next, let's start filling the Form B. For Part 1, fill in the departure information step by step. First, enter the voyage number. Next, fill in the date and time of departure from Las Palmas in the position. Then input the port name and port code. Remember to select EU from the drop-down menu. No cargo operations at Las Palmas. Select N. Fill in the fuel quantity on board when the vessel weighs anchors and departs from Las Palmas. Part to the second officer is required to record the UTC date and time for 3 key events. When the vessel drops anchor at the anchorage. When the vessel anchors away. When the vessel finally arrives at the berth first line on shore. Since the ship left Las Palmas. On April 7th at 14:30, drop anchor at San Ciprian waiting for berth. On April 9th at 8 o'clock, anchor aways to berth. The same day at 10 o'clock, the vessel arrived at berth with first line on shore. After filling in the above-mentioned data in the specified time format, it will automatically calculate the anchoring elapsed time, which is the time from dropping anchor to moving away. The third part is where majority of our crew members made mistakes. Class NK clearly states in the guidance, fuel oil consumption during anchoring should be included, but the time while vessel was anchored should be excluded. That is to say, the fuel consumption during anchoring should be included in the consumption at sea, not the port stays consumption. This is different from our usual understanding, but since this is a requirement from the class NK, we need to be extra careful when making calculations. So for part 3, when filling in the fuel consumption of the main engine, auxiliary engine, boiler, etc., it includes not only the fuel consumption during the sea voyage from Las Palmas to San Ciprian, but also the consumption during the anchorage period. For distance traveled, fill in the total sailing distance from Las Palmas to the San Ciprian berth, including the distance from the anchorage to the berth. Time at sea will be calculated automatically by the form's formula. It includes the berth shifting time, but does not include the waiting time at the anchorage. 3 point for cargo carried from last port. Since there was no cargo handling in the previous port, so the cargo quantity is consistent with the cargo quantity at the loading port. Part 4, the last part. Fill in the arrival port informatio. Arrival time is the UTC time of the first line on shore, the same with 2.3, not the drop anchor time. Departure time refers to the time when the last line lets go. And other port information, such as latitude and longitude, port names. Requirements are the same as before. ROB at arrival refers to the fuel oil volume at first line on shore. From 4.7.1 to 4.7.4. Filling all fuel consumption during cargo operations in port, including main engine, auxiliary engine, boiler, and other equipment's fuel consumption data. Vessel took a small amount of bunkering at the discharge port. Fill in the fuel quantity according to BDN in 4.8. Lastly, check ROB on departure. The memos have all been filled out. Now let's start filling in the MRV forms. Open the MRV form. You can see the form is composed of voyage. 6 worksheets including voyage, noon, bunker, ROB, cargo, report. The form can be used to fill in voyage data continuously. Let's use one sea voyage data we just filled in as an example to fill in the MRV monitoring form. If the Excel spreadsheet pops up a security alert that macros are disabled, you must manually click Enable Content. Otherwise, the data cannot be recognized by the system. The first section, Voyage, can be divided into 2 parts. The first part is to fill in the departure port and at-sea data. The second part is to fill in the arrival port and port data. The reporting basic data section. The gray area does not need to be filled with anything. The data will be automatically generated after savings. In the Voyage Information section, click Add Row. After entering the Voyage 1C, the others will be automatically generated. Fuel setting is automatically formed according to previous settings. No need to fill in or modify. Next, fill in the departure port and at sea information. Now we can fill in the data according to Form B. Fill in the departure date, time and position for the vessel's departure from Las Palmas. To determine whether it is an EU or UK port, Las Palmas is in Spain. Select EU. Just a reminder, again, if the port is neither in the EU nor the UK, you should also click the drop-down menu and select blank. Otherwise, the system will consider that no information has been filled in for this item. Cargo operation. Verify if there is cargo operation in port. Select Y for cargo operations, N for no cargo operations. STS stands for ship-to-ship transfer operations or bunkering operations for oil tankers. Our ships do not meet this option. Please ignore. Other information shall be filled in sequentially in accordance with Form B. Loading condition. The drop-down menu L represents laden condition. B represents ballast condition. When the vessel departs Las Palmas in a fully loaded state, select L. Power supplied by zero-emission technologies. It refers to electricity generated with no direct pollution emissions. Most ships are not required to fill in this item at present, so please ignore it. Next, fill in the arrival port information. Corresponds to Form B Part 4. Cargo carried at arrival. Since the vessel did not perform any loading or unloading operations at the previous port of Las Palmas, it still carries 65,000 when arriving at the discharge port. There haven't been many issues with filling in noon sections. The gray area does not need to be filled. You only need to note that the UTC time should be filled in. Additionally, ensure the information corresponds to the voyage number. If there is bunkering at the arrival port, fill in the third section, bunker. If there is no bunkering operation, there is no need to fill this in. Since there will be a small amount of bunkering after unloading, we need to fill this in. In reporting basic data, fill in basic data when you fill in Voyage 1C. Status is arrival. Note that bunkering information should not be filled in at the departure port. It should only be filled in upon arrival at the port. The fuel products used by this vessel have been entered into the system, and the type of the oil product for this bunkering can be selected from the drop-down menu. Then fill in the quantity, volume, and density information. Vessels using biofuel will be required to fill in the gray areas. Finally, click Browse to upload BDN as evidence. ROB section requires to fill in the ROB of departure port and the ROB at arrival port, which is the ROB of the ship leaving Las Palmas, and the ROB at the port of arrival, San Ciprian. Click Browse to upload the ROB evidence. We suggest we mark the fuel oil volume at arrival and departure in logbook. Take a photo of the page as evidence. In the cargo section, here you fill in the information about the cargo operation. If there are no cargo operations at either the departure port or the arrival port, there is no need to fill this in. Finally, upload bill of lading as evidence. After filling in all the above information, we arrived at the final step of data validation and generate data. Before submitting the MRV monitoring form, you must verify data. Each of the 6 worksheets has a validation button at its top right corner. However, the validation can only verify the data format and the completeness of attachments. It cannot verify the accuracy of the data. Now click on Validation. A green OK means the form is filled out completely. If any incompleteness in filling or formatting errors are detected during the check, it will show pink NG. You can return to the error area for modification. As you can see, the areas with errors are highlighted with a distinct bright red. After modifying the error section, we click on Validation again. Finally, after ensuring that no data is missing in the form, click Create Zip to generate the data package. Now we return to the original folder. We can see 2 new files have been generated. These 2 files are the latest data packages just generated. The data packages are imported into the Classic Portal website via email. The email address is as shown on the screen. The email subject has no fixed requirements. We recommend labeling the voyage number for company validation reference. Send the email and copy the company's technical and marine email addresses at the same time. Note the following 2 points. First, do not modify the names of the data packages. Second, the 2 data packages cannot be sent separately, as the system will not receive complete data if either file is sent individually. After the email is sent, the data packages will appear on the website in approximately 3 hours. When you open the Excel file again, the data you have just submitted will be locked and grayed out in the original file, indicating that this data has been exported and uploaded. Later, when you use the same spreadsheet to fill in the information for subsequent voyages, if you have any questions, when you fill out the FR24 memo and MRV monitoring form, please feel free to contact the company. We will provide you with the most detailed guidance based on your specific questions.